thank everyone for being here. It's always good to be among people that are like-minded, or people that want peace. I know you don't know anything about me, so I'll give you a little of my history. September 11th, 72 years ago, I was born in a small town in Mississippi. A town where violence, hate flourished. But even during those times, I was taught to love all people. And it was hard to do, or even to understand why I was told to do this, but I tried it. Stayed true to form. After graduating from high school, I went in the U.S. Army, where I was taught just the opposite, to hate, to be violent. A few years later, I was in Vietnam, where I was able to transform the hate that I was taught on the people in Vietnam that had done nothing to me. It was an easy transition for me to make. But worst of all, I began to kill for revenge because of people that I loved, that I saw die. It became easier and easier to take another life. Over the years, I've had problems dealing with that, but I've managed. September 11, 2001 was like a coming out for me when I saw how people were clamoring for blood after the towers went down in New York. It's tragic. But I had another feeling. I felt that part of the problem that created what happened in New York was America's problem. That for years we have been able to go all over the world and do what we want and feel untouchable. And at the same time, I was thinking of the people that have lived under war or threat of war all of their lives. The children in the Latin Americas or other parts of the world where our great country have gone and invaded for no reason other than greed and need. The need of resources of others that we assume to be ours because we have the power to go and take them. Libya was all about greed and need. The need of this country for those resources to run our cars, to heat our homes. Amen. And the greed of the people that bring those resources to us is the reason we are in the predicament we're in. It took me many years to realize that I was born into a society with a culture that supports violence. And there's no way you can separate what our military do to people from what it does to this planet. This country, the Pentagon, the military, have the biggest footprint against the environment of any other country in the world. Over 400 million gallons of fuel were used in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think it's about 100 million or 400,000 barrels of oil are consumed daily by military. So there's no way you can disconnect it. You cannot think of wanting peace and having peace unless you challenge the culprit with the biggest footprint on the environment. It's impossible. You can't do it. And even some of the environmental groups don't challenge the Pentagon on this. We are in this situation because we have accepted these ways all of our lives. For me, it's been 72 years that I've seen the same song played over and over when we send our young people to war in the name of national security or the interests of this country or the freedoms which many of us still don't enjoy in this country. I heard the pastor speak a moment ago, or the mayor, when he spoke of the looting, the rioting that people do. And I thought of this group called Black Lives Matter. And I think when they first came up with that meme, people felt that they were saying no other lives matter. These are the only lives that matter, are black lives. But that's not what that means. What it means is ever since the African people were brought from that continent to this one, that black lives have not mattered. That's exactly what it means. Had they mattered, they wouldn't have been thrown off the ships en route to these lands. Had they mattered, they wouldn't have been enslaved and killed for no reason other than the color of their skin. But too often, we find ways to look away from the real problem than to look at really what creates the problem. How can we have peace in this country, or peace in another land, when we're not at peace here? It's impossible. If we want peace, we have to acknowledge that we are a warlike country, that this country was built with violence. It was taken by violence. We also have to look at what has happened through the years to where our young people have that mindset that they gotta go and fight in a foreign land to be patriotic. That's not what it's about. That is what keep us turning the same way day after day after day, because too many of us believe that. Too many of us believe that we fight to protect these rights. I never believed it. Even during my time in Vietnam, I was fighting to protect myself. Never that I felt that I had to do this to be a patriot. To me, patriotism, to many, is the refuge of a scoundrel. I think it was Samuel Johnson who said that. But when you have peace in your heart, nothing can harm you. Because if you are existing on this planet and you have no desire or no need to see or to want things better for the generations to come, you're dead. Therefore, you shouldn't fear death. My grandmother once told me, when a person reaches a level where they are so comfortable, where they have everything they need, that they have no desire or aspirations, that they might as well dig a hole and get in it because they're dead. There's no need to live anymore. What we need to do is to live for not ourselves, but the generations to come. The question we should ask is, what do we want to leave for those coming behind us? The question we should ask is, can it be done without connecting the dots between the environment, the planet, and war? We need a culture of peace. If we had that, we wouldn't be at this level. And the job that we have now is tough, because we not only have to talk about it, we have to try to educate people to connect those dots. That if you support war, and I know many talk about just war, but to me and other vets, many others that have gone and fought, we don't believe in that theory. It's just another war that people choose to fight for whatever reason. I was in a documentary called The Good Soldier, where they had people, soldiers from different wars, World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And there was one thing that was common from all of us around to us, is that we all abhor war. That none of us saw war as a means to settle differences. But that has been our government's policy throughout history. If someone do you wrong, kill them. We're taught that. We have a death penalty where you teach people not to kill by killing them. How much sense does it make? How much sense does it make for us to go years and years invading and looking for a different result? It seems that at some point, enough people in this country will wake up and say war is not the answer. That if we are going to survive as a people, that we have to find other means to settle differences than violence. Our kids grow up in the same culture that I grew up in. Even now it's more sophisticated, because 72 years ago I didn't have the computer games and the war games to play. And I wasn't allowed to play with the guns, the Roy Rogers pistols and that stuff. My parents didn't allow that because it was violent and they were against violence. But now kids come up watching these games. The military are like ants on a meat skin in the schools, capturing their psyche at a young age, putting that belief in them that you got to do this in order to protect this country, when it's only protecting the militarism of this country. We live in a country that's based on fear. Fear is used to get people to go along, to believe that this must be done. If we don't do this, that will happen. And we have to break away from that fear. If we had moved the environment and the idea of peace at the same speed that we did other technologies, we wouldn't be in this position. In Madison a few weeks ago, I was reading where Madison Gas and Electric are raising the rates because of this. They're putting a fixed price on people that was using solar panels or some other means to heat their homes. And why would that happen? It only happens because the big industry orders want the status quo. They want to keep using fossil fuel. Therefore, you penalize the people that are trying to do something to lessen their footprint on the environment. But they have to pay for it. We are a country where I feel life don't seem to matter to many. That there are other priorities that people have, and life and peace are not one of them. Growing up in Mississippi, I learned that if I learned what we called was the 3 R's, writing, reading, and arithmetic. Not arithmetic, but arithmetic, the 3 R's. And I was thinking, what would happen if our children learned something else called the 3 P's? People, peace, and planet. How would that work? You know, if people learn that they have to love each other, if people learn they have to protect each other, if they learn that peace don't only means the silence of weapons, that peace is something that starts in the heart and goes out. If they learn that unless we get the concern about the planet, that the planet can't exist, we'll destroy it, and ourselves in the process. It doesn't seem hard to understand, but I think greed overrides common sense. Greed and power. Money. I also believe that people trump all of that if they come together. If we can see where my issue is just as important as your issue, that like an old Indian parable that said a twig is weak, but the bundle is strong, that if we can all come together, there's nothing that can stop us, that can stop those that want to save this planet. People trumps money. But when you are living in a system where money controls, and it controls everything, it controls the life and death of a person. If you got money, you can go to the best doctors in the world. If you get arrested for some trumped up charge, you can buy your way out of it. That's the way this system is set up. It's an unjust system, and it's up to us to change it. If a small country like Ukraine can do it, why can't we? But we can't do it by buying into the idea that in time things will change, because they won't unless we bring it. We are the change that we need. We are the ones to bring it. And for the sake of our children and our children's children, it is time for us to stop fooling ourselves and be a part of, rather than on the outside looking in. This group, I'm proud. I'm proud that someone, somewhere, is on the same accord September 21st, Peace Day. I think it started in 1981. The UN called it International Peace Day. But I thought about the other days that we observe so strongly, whether it's Halloween or Easter. You got people out in droves, sitting around Walmarts, camping overnight so you can go in and get goods that were made in China where people are living under duress because of the cheap labor and the not caring about their livelihood or their environment. But we celebrate those big time. What would happen if we had the same feeling, if people came out in the same strength that they do for those holidays, if they come out for International Peace Day? It would be a different world. And that is what we are trying to bring it to. Best for Peace started in 1985, and I'm a member of it. I believe in their mission. And their mission is to abolish war and have our government change its means of settling differences. And it can happen. I wonder what would happen if we spread peace throughout the Middle East instead of bombs or missiles, How much more would that affect the people? How much less pollution will we be doing by using the armaments we use? There's no way to disconnect it. It's impossible. If you want peace, it has to start at home. If you want peace, you have to hold your government accountable for what they do that stop peace from coming to be. If you want to save the planet, you have to connect the dots and understand that without one, you can't have the other. You can't expect future generations to live in a better world than we found unless we address both those issues, war and the environment, and peace. Thank you.